When the union's inspirations through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one?
Several factors contributed to Chicago's need for a larger, more centralized, and efficient stockyard. One of these was the westward expansion of railroads, causing Chicago to evolve into a major railroad center and experience massive commercial growth. Another factor was the influx of meatpackers and livestock to Chicago. The city's small stockyards were not equipped to manage the exponential growth of the meatpacking industry. In order to accommodate the rapid growth of the industry, 9 railroad companies acquired swampland and turned it into a centralized processing area in 1865. It operated for 106 years, helping the city become known as Hog Butcher for the World and the center of the American meatpacking industry for decades. At the turn of the century, Chicago's meatpacking industry employed more than 25,000 people and produced 82% of the meat consumed in the United States. But the working conditions for the thousands employed at the Union stockyards were horrible. Laborers on the killing floors had to work amidst the stench and piercing shrieks of animals being slaughtered while standing on blood-soaked floors. They worked long hours, almost 10 to 12 a day, in temperatures exceeding 100 degrees in the summertime. Stockyard employers could keep wages low and withhold benefits due to the ready supply of immigrant workers desperate to earn a living.
The historical relationship in a workplace is that there is an employer, and the employer hires at-will employees to do tasks for which the employer will pay that employee. The employee has very little ability to argue with the employer about working conditions, about hours, about wages, about benefits, or anything else. Person gets sick, the employer says to that sick employee, goodbye. The employee becomes ill and aged, employer can say goodbye. So historically, employees have had few vehicles to extract any kind of benefits or wage concessions from employers.
Most jobs required little skill. Only the butchers with their highly specialized cutting techniques were considered skilled workers. Workers could learn quickly the one-step assembly line tasks, making the stockyards an attractive prospect to those immigrants who arrived without work skills or spoke limited English. Irish and German immigrants were among the first ethnic groups to seek stockyard employment in the late 19th century. Bohemians, Poles, Slavs, and other Eastern European immigrants, and later African American and Mexicans, added to the culturally diverse workforce. The packing houses also employed women as packagers and children as messengers, paying them a fraction of the amount adult male workers earned.
It's hard in 2012 to imagine what life was like in the rough and tumble world of the late 1800s, early 1900s, in the stockyard industry. It was a dirty business. It was made up of different kinds of people, and the employers had the ability and took advantage of the ability to impose very difficult work conditions, create discriminatory practices, isolated different groups of people. And I believe in the late 1890s, there was tremendous labor unrest, and it started between skilled employees and unskilled employees, and how they should be paid differently, and who should be in charge of their working conditions. And they, the union, attempted to organize and went on strike. And the stockyard owners said, we are going to break the strike and we're going to bring in our own union busters. And they did.
Workers went on strike and attempted to unionize in an effort to improve their harsh working conditions. However, the early attempts were relatively unsuccessful. Two significant efforts were made in 1894 and 1904, but both failed due to the strikers' inability to form a cohesive, effective group. In 1904, the attempt to unionize was foiled by the leaders' inability to join people of various ethnic groups into a unified group. To further complicate the union's problems, employers hired African Americans as strikebreakers, prompting social conflict and riots between black and white workers. The employers were right to assume that unions would have difficulty organizing across racial lines. This proved problematic for many years to come.
In 1904, the union went out on strike. The employers brought in African Americans to perform the labor function. The union didn't, or was unable, or whatever the politics were, to prevent the African Americans from coming in and performing the job. So the employers effectively got the union to look weak and was able to displace the antagonism of the union membership against the employer to be antagonistic towards the African American and black community. Because it was easier to blame someone that you weren't getting the benefits and that someone were the blacks who were breaking the strike as opposed to the employers.
Unfortunately, the meatpacking industry began to decline, and the yards closed at midnight on Friday, July 30th, 1971. The Union Stockyard Gate was designated a Chicago landmark on February 24th, 1972, and a National Historic Landmark on May 29th, 1981. The area has now become an industrial park, home to many small factories, none which include meatpacking.